Okay, see you then. Bye, bye, bye. Sessione. Dear audience, could you please sit quickly as possible? We want to start our session. Good morning, everyone. It's wonderful to see all of you here. Is my voice clear to everyone? That's perfect. First of all, I would like to thank Professor Maria Como and Professor Dali for organizing such a great, insightful event. I'm sure so far everyone enjoyed every minute of the conference. Are you? I want to see the smile. That's great. The purpose of our today's session is understanding the role of publishing play in marketing. We know there are quite challenges in marketing. Either we are interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary approach. And it's quite challenges for all of us how to disseminate and share our work with others. Today is a very useful session for the PhD student and the junior colleagues. They could understand the process of publishing and also selecting the right home for the article and research. Our guests, precious guests today, are the editor-in-chief for the top journals in marketing and hospitality field. They have 5 to 10 minutes to talk about their journal. They're going to introduce their journals, and then they start explaining how to choose the home, whether it's a right place for your article, or you have to select other home for the paper. And also they give you some advice on how to write for the journal, and also how to avoid some common mistakes. All of the editors are interested. They were interested to join us, but unfortunately, due to the commitment and also the teaching time semester, it wasn't possible. But they were all very interested to sit with us here. But still, we are so lucky to have them online as well as in the panel. I would like to extend my warm welcome to all editor-in-chiefs and the editors. The first presentation would be by Adam. Adam is currently working in, he's an editor-in-chief, sorry. Adam is the first speaker. He's the head of department of marketing in Denmark. And also his research interest is business and industrial marketing, corporate social responsibility, sustainability, as well as a relationship marketing. He is our first speaker. And Adam, you have the floor. Could you share the screen, please, and give access to Adam? Adam, floor is yours. Are you able to share the screen, Adam? He's trying, yeah. Yeah. I raise my hand.
I'm here now.
Oh, thank you, Adam. I appreciate it.
You completely disappeared. So sorry, and thank you for this welcome. And so I'm here together with, I'm here together with my co-editor-in-chief, Professor Tony Di Benedetto.
Wonderful to see you.
So you wanted us to talk about the journal in general, and then also about, what are the reasons for manuscripts being rejected. And so, actually, and this gave me some ideas for writing the next editorial, we have actually never sat down to talk about why the manuscripts are rejected for the journal. And but since we have all the rejection letters, of course we can do that, and we should be doing that. But I think we can say safely that the reasons why manuscripts are being rejected, very often it has to do with they are just not fitting the scope of the journal. They have nothing to do with B2B marketing management. So then, of course, they are being rejected. And other than that, the reasons relate to they are poorly written, there is no research rationale, the contributions are unclear, the analysis is not sound enough, the writing is poor, and
Thank you, Ed.
Anthony, I'm so sorry to interrupt you. Can I introduce you to the audience? If you
course,
allow me,
thank
thank you. We have also Professor Anthony. He is a co-editor-in-chief for IMM. His expertise is about new development, new product development, product and process innovation, competitive strategy and positioning, industrial marketing, and also mathematical model in marketing. Thank you so much, Anthony. Floor yours.
Cinzia, thank you very much for the nice introduction. I appreciate that. I would say that I agree with Adam. There are many mistakes that a junior author will make when submitting to a journal. And one of the most important mistakes to avoid is not looking at the journal website and understanding the aims and scope of the journal and making sure that there's a good match. Those are always available, as are usually some papers that can be downloaded. So you can compare quality and contribution expectations. I would add one other note to what Adam said, and that is
Thank you so much, Anthony. Thank you, Adam. Our next speaker is Professor Cleopatra. Her expertise is brand management, marketing management, and corporate identity. She is from University of Glasgow, and she is in the panel. Cleopatra, do you want? I think you can use your mic. Yeah.
Hear me. Right? So my name is Cleopatra. I come from the University of Glasgow. As Pantea said, I am more than happy. I am delighted to be here with you. I always find being with people from Italy very close to my heart. Remember, I was born in Greece, and my heart is still Greek. I'm here today to talk about the Journal of Product and Brand Management that I am co-editing since 2013, so it's quite a long time now. And I am also an associate editor of the Journal of Business Research, but this is a different story. If you want anything about this journal, please approach. It's not working. I didn't touch it. Is it better now? You see, my aura. Yeah, it was my aura moving it, or him, one of the two, your friend. You know how sneaky he can be, right? Now, the Journal of Product and Brand Management have gone a long way. We took over with Francisco Guzman, a super friend, a wonderful academic, somebody very close to my heart these days, in 2013, where the journal had an impact didn't have an impact factor, and it had a side score of 1.3. At this point in time, the side score is 6.2 for last year, Q1 in Scopus, and the forthcoming impact factor is going to be higher than 7.8, because 7.8 is the tracker at this point. So we are doing very, very well. We have been Q1 for several years. We have an impact factor as well for the last 4 years. It was 4.3 for the 2 years and 5.4 for the 5 years. We are Q1 in Scopus, Q2 in the impact factor. We are A in the ABDC list. And we're very proud that in your latest list in Italy, we were named A. Thank you very much for that. And we're expecting more papers from you. What do we do in the Journal of Product and Brand Management? The title says it all. Product or brand. And when we're talking about product, we're talking both about tangible and intangible product. So services papers could also fit if they are on the service provision, and this is clearly explained. We process papers quickly per round, but we are with a habit of giving a little bit more rounds to make sure that your baby, if it goes out, it's going to be of top quality. We typically have 1 year, roughly, on average, between first submission to acceptance. These are the good news. Are you ready for the bad news? No. Acceptance rate, 12% last year. Desk reject, 70%. But with feedback. The editors read all the manuscripts, and if papers are desk rejected, we give a good paragraph with feedback on ways to improve your work. So if you submit to us, you will not get the comment, this doesn't fit our journal. Unless it's on a different subject. If it is in product and brand, you will get more than that. Very rarely we give the comment, we are sorry, this is very weak, and we cannot give feedback, but this is less than 1% of the desk rejects. So you will get some feedback, you will know why this work didn't fit. What are the good news now? 30% of the papers go for review, 12% is accepted. So if you get through the desk reject, your chance to get in is 33, 35, 36%. So it's very, very good chances if you put the work in. And you engage with the reviewers, you engage with the editor. We are a friendly bunch, I think. We are changing in terms of structure. We have a very strong and nice editorial board that we have very nice Italian colleagues here. One is sitting there. Yeah, you. I cannot see Daniela anywhere in the room. She came in the bus, but hello, Daniela, I love you. And Luca Petruzzellis, he's not a morning person, so I think that he's not here yet. We prefer to have afternoon meetings. He decided, I suppose, not to come early in the morning. We are going to have some changes in the journal because after 9 years, Francisco said enough is enough. I can't work anymore. The plan is that I'm going to be the only editor-in-chief, and I am going to have a nice team of associate editors. So we receive the papers, we talk with them about desk rejects, and then we manage the review process. You will have your representation in Italy in this associate editor team. This guy there, Giuseppe, has kindly agreed to help me and help not me, the journal, to get it higher and better. So we are hoping to receive more papers from you. In 2021, we only processed 4 papers from Italy, not because we didn't want to process anymore, but because you did not submit anymore. And none of them went through, unfortunately. This year so far, we have received 6 papers from Italy only, out of 383 submissions in the journal so far. So you have an A-level journal, you have Italian people in the board, it's an A-level. We are expecting your best work. Mind you, go and check the statistics of the journal, impact factor, side score, and so on and so forth. They are comparable with the European Journal of Marketing. So we are talking about a journal that is going from strength to strength because people like you are supporting it. We love every single author, irrelevant whether he or she makes it through. And I need to, I'm going, don't worry. And I need to tell you that both editors-in-chief had their work rejected in the Journal of Product and Brand Management when sent for review. So we go through the same process as you, even for our own journal. Love you, and I hope that I will be able to help you in any way. Catch me in the corridor, take me from the hair. I will be very willing to answer any question. Thank you for your time.
Okay. I just repeat again, today we are so lucky to have such a great editor-in-chiefs. And now we have co-editor-in-chief from BJM, British Journal of Management, Dr. Shuang Ren. Her expertise is about Chinese management, sustainability, green HRM, pro-environmental behavior. Shuang, you have the floor. Would you like to share the screen?
Yes.
Thank you.
Actually, so just, thank you. I've actually tried to share my screen. Are you able to see in your end? here to answer any questions you might have for me.
Thank you so much, Joan. It was amazing explanation and also description of the BJM. And also you have introduced the IJMR as a sister journal. Thank you. Dear audience, we leave the questions and the answers at the end of our whole presentation. Thank you. Our next speaker is Professor Fevzi Kumar. Sorry, let me go back to the slides. Can I have the slide, please? So sorry, we have some technical issues. Yeah. Our precious speaker is Professor of Hospitality Management, Professor Fevzi Okomos, Editor-in-Chief of International Journal of Contemporary Hospitality Management, IJCHM. He is expert in strategic management, hospitality and hotel management, strategic planning, and also crisis management, change management. He is from Florida, and I would really thanks on behalf of the team for, you are awake in the early morning and you are online. We really appreciate. Thank you, Professor. Could you please share your screen? And it seems you are mute.
Can you hear me? Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Okay. I think the function of sharing screen is not working. Well, I can speak and cover main topics.
I would appreciate. I'm so sorry for that.
No worries, no worries. By the way, I live in Orlando, Florida for the last 18 years, but for the last 10 years I visited Italy, especially
Thank you so much, Professor Fevzi, for giving such a great advices to the scholars, and also special for the PhD student and also junior. And I am aware that many of us, we have submitted the papers to the journals which are presented today. But we know we are doing some mistake, and hopefully today we learn how to improve ourselves, our writing, focus on contribution, what exactly we need to add in introduction, for example, bold, objective, and aim. And all this advice help us to improve ourselves, our writing for submission, which we could increase the publications and also the making quicker the process of publishing. Thank you so much, Professor Fevzi. Our next speaker presenting here is Professor Daniela Dali. Daniela's main research is about consumer behavior. He's from University of Pisa, and he is editor-in-chief of Italian Journal of Marketing. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Here, I have to introduce to the audience the Italian Journal of Marketing. Most of you know that the journal is actually property of the Italian Association of Marketing, and it is a pleasure and an honor to manage the journal. We cannot compete with these more traditional and actually historical journals. We are publishing the journal since the beginning of 2020, so we have a couple of years and a half of history. Within these 2 years, we performed pretty well if compared with other journals. If we employ those kind of metrics that usually consider recent work and low levels of citations, the G index and a couple of others. So for this couple of years and a half, we performed pretty well if compared with other journals. We usually think about our journal as a continental or regional journal. We have both authors and audience from Europe, basically, and from Italy in particular. We think to position the journal more or less the same way the Spanish did with the Spanish Journal of Marketing, and the French colleagues from AFM did with the name of the journal doesn't come to my mind, but I will go back to it later. It is Recherche, Application, Marketing. We received many papers. We have basically a text rejection rate about 50%. I will tell you a couple of things about the kind of papers we need and the kind of papers we don't need, as we usually text reject them, right? We basically need two kinds of paper. The so-called A-type papers, those papers who are sound and coherent in their main sections. Papers are usually made of kind of 4 sections, that is introduction and positioning, method, findings, discussion, and so on. And usually it seems that best papers of this kind are those who are improved and worked, not thinking about these sections and writing the first section and then the second one and then the third one, right? Good papers are made like if the authors are working on these 4 sections in parallel, thus developing the introduction and then move on to the data collection and data analysis and then writing down the findings and then going back to introduction and then working a bit on discussion and then adapting these sections in such a way that at the end of the journey, the paper seems to be written like a sequence of sections, but as a matter of fact, this section has to be improved in parallel, together, right? As you can't think of writing the introduction and stop it and then put the other things together one by one. At the end of the day, you will have to go back sooner or later and rework on the introduction and so on. These kind of papers are based on a positioning that should follow an interesting paper by Gerard Ellis. It has been published in 2016 in the Journal of the Academy of Marketing Science. The title is Interesting and Impactful Research. And one of the main things in this paper is an interesting diagram in which the author says, in order to be interesting, a paper has to be kind of contradictory to extant research. Right? If you want your paper to be published in our journal as well as in another important journal, something represented here, your paper has to say something different, something unexpected, and possibly, at least to a limited extent, contradictory to what we really know. But that is the kind of thing we think is useful as a contribution, that's changing things. We do not need to confirm what we already know, right? We know it. So the kind of things we need in these journals is tell us something new. New means that you increase the number and quality of variables in order to describe and interpret a phenomenon, that's fine. Or you can bring new ideas about how extant variables can be rearranged. Or you can tell us that you have an empirical evidence that does not fit with extant research. And you have to rearrange the variables that are more or less consolidated in the literature. I give you an example. We and a couple of other authors, we are working on a data set about social media and its effect on sales. We are working on fast-moving consumer goods. And our data says that, quite paradoxically, some of the social media metrics work counter sales. So if likes improve for the posts of a given company, sales decrease 1 week or 2 weeks later. And results are very robust. We have checked in a number of ways. So this means that our evidence is partly contradictory to what is more or less given for granted, that is social media marketing improves awareness, buzz, whatever the case, and sooner or later it could affect positively sales. So we have something interesting here that puts into question what we already know about the theory behind this kind of phenomena, right? So this is the kind of things we look for. This is an example about empirical evidence contradicting extant research. You can also be provocative on a theoretical terms. You can pick up theories from other fields, put it back into marketing or consumer behavior, and say, if only we were aware that these theories were going on, let's say, in anthropology or sociology, we could have been developing our ideas differently. And this belongs to the kind of critical thinking of our research, in which we could put into questions the theory we use and we know, trying to renew and to change it and to adapt it to new ways of thinking, even coming from other fields. Why we do reject papers? And I think more or less the main point here is contribution, right? But my colleagues told about this and probably will talk about this further. Let's talk about desk rejection. We usually desk reject papers that are not adequate in terms of methods and data, because data collection is unclear. There is some problem with the justification of the sampling method. Many papers that are desk rejected have very small samples. And these samples are analyzed in such a way they were representative of a given population, looking for inferences and for implications. And it seems that authors are not aware about the fact that doing this kind of work with a non-representative sample is just nothing, right? We cannot accept it. So if you have a convenient sample, you have to treat it as such. And you have to tell us why you did use a convenient sample that can be accepted under certain conditions, and your results cannot be considered implications in stricto sensu, right? A second reason for this rejection is the scope. The area is too small. The business or the geographical scope of the paper is too small in order to be considered interesting for put it into question the theories behind our kind of activity. Right? It is not necessary to have a multicultural, super huge sample at the international level, but if you have a small data, you have to explain us how this could be useful for you and for the journal in order to have an interesting discussion about theory building. We don't consider contribution or weak contribution as a reason for this rejection. We are very happy to help the authors to improve this part of the paper through the reviewing process, but method and data have to be at a certain level. Starting from that, we can work, the reviewers and the authors, together in order to improve the contribution of the paper during the reviewing process. We have a small amount of papers that are rejected after the reviewing process, and this depends sometimes about the low level of commitment of authors. So reviewers ask this and that. I, as the editor-in-chief, I say, you have to consider specifically this and that from reviewer A and this and that from reviewer B, and sometimes it happens that authors don't care, right? We tell them, just proof edit your English, it's not good enough. And we don't see any improvement from that point of view. So when authors do not react effectively to suggestions, we take it as a kind of low level of commitment and engagement, and basically this does not end up fine for them. A last comment about a new tool we have developed in the journal. As this is the journal of the association, we are very much interested in giving a service to the community, and specifically to the young scholar. This is the reason why we have developed the project of the Climber Corner. Climber Corner means that you are a PhD student or postdoc. You are allowed to present a paper that is not necessarily 100% fitting with your PhD project. You can use a section of your database, a kind of part of the work you've done for your PhD. The paper has to be no more than 6,000 words, all included. One author, at least two in special cases. The author or both authors have to be PhD or postdoc. We call it a way for giving young scholars the opportunity to go to the review process, and we usually apply less rigid and less severe standards for this kind of papers, and we would be very much very happy to receive submissions of this kind. At the moment we have 6. One has been accepted and is going to be published online. I just checked a couple of hours ago, but it is not online, but it is going to be like this in a few time. And the other 5 papers are under review, and we hope to receive more. As I see, there are a lot of submissions to this conference. As our president told us yesterday, we had the record this year for the number of submissions, so I hope many of these from young scholars will end up with a submission to the Climate Corner section of the journal. I think it's okay by now. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Professor Deli. Our next speaker, you are very familiar, is Professor Yogesh. His expertise on digital business, electronic commerce, digital electronic government, and also digital and social media marketing. He is editor-in-chief in International Journal of Information Management. Yogesh, you have the floor.
Thank you. So, very nice to see you all again. And obviously, as a name indicates for the journal, International Journal of Information Management, you're thinking why we are talking that here in marketing conference. Well, we do publish papers that are on intersection of technology and marketing, or intersection of information and marketing. So if you are working on technology-oriented issues in marketing context, then those papers are most welcome. The journal, obviously, is being published since 1982, so it's a very old journal, and it has impact factor of 18.95. So that makes it one of the highest, strongest journal in business and management area, if you look at impact factor. Its site score is 28.5. So again, it's a very, very strong journal in that sense. Our acceptance rate is 8%, and we received last year 2,000 submissions. So you can understand the volume of submissions, and given the volume of submissions, we reject 88%. Last year, 88% desk rejected. And then whatever gone to review process, majority of them, then, submissions then gone through. So, and our process is that you will receive desk screening result, means desk rejection outcome within a week. We don't delay too long. We try to process everything as it comes. And if it goes through the review process, then it may go through two to four review cycles. And, but overall decision you will receive within 8 to 15 months. That's the total length of receiving the decision. I'm not going to go through lots of things that my colleagues have already covered, but what I want to say is that the journal actually welcomes, okay, sorry, I didn't know that the slides are there. So you can see some of the topics that have been published in last 3 years, okay? And you can see the marketing-oriented topics are there that have been published. And if I can ask to go for next slide, yeah. So here is a editorial that we published about a year ago. And the editorial is based on, obviously, opinion of different editors. Not my own journal, but 8 different journals. And you can see the common reason for desk rejection. And some of those my colleague has already mentioned. So some of those are obviously based on fit, obviously, scope, fit and scope of the journal, poor structure of the manuscript, language issues, that you face, length of the article, and obviously other things are theoretical and methodological issues. As you go higher and higher up journals, just cross-sectional data might not be sufficient. Just the replication of a theory might not be sufficient. So you really need to look at what is going on in the journal in last few years, what kind of papers been published, what kind of standards are expected, and then actually you pitch your paper according to that. And it's just not for my journal, but any journal. Also, one very simple thing, similarity of your content with other content. What happens, most of the journal nowadays has tool. And the tool gives the similarity proportion, so 10%, 15%, 20%. And majority of journals are rejecting if your content has similarity with other sources more than 10%. So be careful, because they don't even look at the paper, they simply desk reject it. So even if you have fantastic, everything else, somehow some content is, matching from somewhere else, then it can be troublesome. So I would say that look at those issues before you submit. Take a time. You work maybe a year, 2 years, for a paper to develop it. So take 2 weeks, 3 weeks to define it, to look at it very carefully before you submit it. Otherwise, you lose that opportunity. If it's desk rejected, you don't have even time, opportunity to get feedback. So it's important that you submit a paper that has minimal quality to go to the review stage, so you can get quality feedback. Okay, these are the just point. Lots of things to talk about, but obviously time is very limited. So thank you so much. This is a quote for the junior scholars. Please don't get discouraged with rejections. We all, any of us who sitting here or who are in the in virtual room, we all get rejected all the time. It's not an unusual thing. So don't worry if you are rejected. Just learn from your rejection, see what you can do, and then move on and submit somewhere else.
I don't know about you, but I have more rejections than acceptances.
Yeah.
Far more rejections than acceptances.
So
This might be different, or Costas, or Danielle, but I have personally more rejections than acceptances.
yeah, so basically just keep going. Don't feel that you rejected once. When journal editor reject you, they're not rejecting you, they're rejecting your work. And that particular work, that particular paper, you might have written other very good papers. So please look at what are the problems in paper, improve upon it, submit somewhere else. That's all I want to say. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yogesh, for introducing your journal. Our next precious speaker is Prof. Kostas Katsekias from the University of Leeds. He is associate editor for Journal of Academy of Management, Marketing Science, JAMS, and also editor of JIPS. His expertise is on strategic marketing, direct marketing, international management, and export management and sales management. Kostas, floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction to one, and thanks for adding me to the panel. I will focus basically on my term is going to end at the end of this year, and after that, I'm going to join the new team as consulting editor of JIPS. JIPS, as you may know, is the leading journal in international business. Its goal is to publish the very best, insightful, innovative, impactful research on timely international business and problems and issues. It is one of the UT Dallas 24 list of journals, 4-star rated, and one of the FT 50, Financial Times 50 journals. JIPS, okay, I mean, it serves as the big tent, and as the first choice journal of the Academy of International Business. It's multidisciplinary. I mean, what is happening, there are all business and management disciplines there with a focus on international. In other words, international marketing, international consumer behavior, international entrepreneurship, international finance and accounting, global strategy, and so forth. The way in which the journal is organized is on the basis of an editor-in-chief, an incoming editor, and departmental editors. I am one of those for marketing. When a manuscript focuses on marketing, for instance, and is submitted to JIPS, what is going to happen the managing editor, the lady who is handling all submissions, is going to look at it and put it through the authenticate. It's the tool that they use to see how much is the plagiarism, if any, in the paper, okay? I mean, if it is beyond a certain level, 15, 18, 20%, they are looking at what has been written in exactly the same way as in other sources. Then, after the managing editor, the paper is going to go to the incoming editor, the reviewing editor. There are two people who are looking at this and say, okay, they look at the manuscript, does it have the fundamental, the very basic trappings, so that the paper could be put in the review process, be allocated to a departmental editor? That's the important question. I mean, there might be papers that do not fall into the domain of international business. He or she desk rejects. There might be papers that are, reports, a writing. I mean, this is not of interest. So when the paper survives there, by looking at the very basics pertaining to the paper, it goes to a departmental editor. The departmental editor looks at the paper and again makes a decision as to whether the paper is to put in the review process. Okay, if the paper is really bad in terms of failing at key issues, very basic issues associated with the particular discipline, the paper is going to be desk rejected. But a good report is going to be written, not only about the reasons, but also making suggestions for improvement. And then, if it goes the review process, this is what we want. We wait for the reviewer comments to come back so that the departmental editor is writing, the report. Hopefully, it's going to be an R&R, a revised resubmit. I mean, and then it's a normal process. Hopefully, the paper is going to go through till the very end, when the departmental editor would recommend acceptance, and then the editor-in-chief is going to endorse or otherwise, but to my knowledge, I would say 100%, the editor-in-chief is going to endorse the decision. That's the process. It has to be like that because the journal is interdisciplinary. If there is something that is conceptually new or controversial in the paper that can be interpreted as significant progress in the field, that would be of great interest. There are different types of papers, okay, that JIPS publishes. There are regular submissions, point-counterpoint articles, okay, there is a debate there. There are special issues every year. The JIPS invites people to make a proposal for a special issue, and then the editors together, assess all the proposals, and they select few proposals to go ahead with them. And of course, they are interested in review papers, and again, there is a call for proposals for a review paper, and the idea is to move on with some of those. Now, last year, we had 971 manuscripts. The desk rejection rate is nearly 65%. We have to desk reject. In a positive sense. Okay? I explain reasons why we desk reject. Many papers are not international. Many others do not have even the basic features. And of course, on the other side of the coin, we have to remember that reviewers have limited time. We cannot bombard them with manuscripts and ask them, to do an excellent job for many manuscripts. They won't do it. Average turnaround time is nearly 70 days, 9 issues per year, 92 articles. Impact factor is very healthy. In fact, with regard to impact factor, we work very hard, to moderate the impact factor, not to have an over-the-top impact factor, well, you understand why. So, and there are, just I put there from the standpoint of marketing, I mean, some hot areas, drivers and performance outcomes of the national marketing strategy, standardization, adaptation, competitive advantage issues, exporting, resource-based view aspects are, welcome. Engagement, customer and employee engagement as a source of competitive advantage is good. Sustainable, environmental and socially friendly strategies is a hot issue. And innovation, has been a very important issue from the standpoint of JIPS. Why many manuscripts, healthy manuscripts, are being rejected? Always, editors and reviewers say, no contribution or no significant contribution to the body of existing knowledge. What I want to emphasize here for a leading journal is that readability is a key success factor. You may have a good study, decent contribution, a relatively decent conceptual and methodological record. If these are not articulated well, readability and flow of the paper being 100%, it's likely that reviewers will be unhappy, and editors as well. If the contribution is not articulated, there is a particular way in which the introduction, the positioning of the manuscript there should be as clear and convincing as possible. Very quickly, we kick off in the opening paragraph with a why issue about the significance of the phenomenon that the study is addressing from a pragmatic standpoint. Then we should talk about the streams of research that have been pursued in the literature. Following that should be gaps, important gaps in the literature. And also, we need to explain the significance of those gaps in terms of limiting our understanding of the phenomenon investigated. And then we need to move smoothly to the primary purpose of your study and or the research questions. And after that, this research contributes in a number of important ways. 1, 2, 3. That's the kind of structure of the introduction that many good papers are adopting, and this is what is expected, in terms of making a strong case from the outset about our study. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kostas. He mentioned about a structure of introduction very well. But unfortunately, many people, before they submit their work, they haven't even checked the structures. And also, it's important for all of us to read the aim and objective of journal. Are they really interested in our topic? And also, we need to cite the journal. I'm an associate editor for a couple of journals. JBR, almost all of us, we are associate editor for JBR, and also I'm associate editor for IJMR, sister of BJM, International Journal of Hospitality Management, and also I'm part of the International Journal of Contemporary Hospitality, Journal of B2B Marketing, and I learn a lot by reading and reviewing articles. But it's important we submit a paper or we write the paper for a specific journal. Before we're doing this, we need to read at least 20 papers from the journal. We need to know the language of the journal. And then start writing up or Even you want, you have rejection from another journal, please don't submit straight to the other journal. Revise it, because some of the previous reviewer, they might be the future reviewer. And they're quite, annoying, because the reviewers spend so much time to review your work. And they're expecting some improvement at least, because they might be the same people. And I would, what we learned today, the aim and objective of journal is important. If you want to submit to IMM, it has to be a B2B. If you want to submit to contemporary, it has to be related to the hospitality. Or even as a GIPS, make sure it's related to the internationalization. That are the key points we have to follow. For example, if you want to submit to the brand management, it has to be related to the brand management, not something else. Something which we do mistake over and over. I would like to thank all our guests again for such a great presenting and also introducing their journals. Hope we learned. Also, I would like to introduce some of my current special issues. One is in JBR, is about brand identity and global marketplace. Another one is on International Journal of Information System, is about metaverse, and also I have luckily, thank you so much, Professor Fevzi, you give me a very good news today, that our call paper was accepted in contemporary management as well. And another one is is about the future and sustainability. In addition, I have a couple of books. Feel free to contact me if you have something related. Thank you so much, everyone. And now from the audience, if there is any question, specific question from the editors or editor-in-chiefs, please raise your hand and ask your questions. Any questions? Do you want to share your experience of submissions to the specific journals? I'm sure you are great researchers and you have some experiences. Do you want to share with us? Yes, please.
We will buy from tomorrow, but we will leave it. So we are not buying today. No today, it's not my day.
The gentleman from the back, could you speak loud, please?
I try, yeah. Okay, so thanks for your presentation. I have a question regarding the various mediation models which are becoming relatively common nowadays in many fields of research. And something that I noticed is that at the very beginning, the theoretical background structure behind a mediation model, a paper based on a mediation model, tended to be with theoretical justification for each small hypothesis. I noticed that reviewers are asking more and more frequently not just to give specific justifications for the single paths of the model, but rather to create an overarching theory above this, rather than just using custom pieces of theories for each path. So I would like to hear your thoughts about it in terms of the direction which is more appropriate to adopt for this. Thank you. No, for everyone who...
Here it is. It's a very good question, a really good question. Now, the higher you go in terms of the journal you are targeting, the more is needed that you come up with an overarching, theory-based conceptual story that can tie together the various constructs in your model. So, I mean, there are many examples I can refer to, but it's a key issue in terms of conceptual development for a leading journal. Okay? Now, when we move all the way down to hypothesize, following this clear theory-based conceptual story, overall story, we need for the hypothesis, individual hypothesis, to be developed on the basis of clear conceptual arguments, not empirical findings. Study X, Z, Y found that this affects that, therefore I hypothesize this. This is a common mistake that many make, because 2, 3 studies found whatever I hypothesize that. That means that there is no contribution by your study, and also it means that this is not a way to develop conceptual rationale as to why you expect the hypothesized link. But when you do this kind of thing, you should develop your conceptual arguments pertaining to individual hypotheses within the overarching conceptual story. This should be linked. So that's the way in which we need to think about that. Please.
So thank you, Kostas. I think that's a really nice way to explain it. And I just want to give one example. There is an article in Academy of Management Review, What Constitutes Theoretical Contribution by Witten, published in 1989 and cited thousands of times. Just 4 pages, I recommend you to read it. But I just pick up one quote from there, and just to explain your point. The paper gives a quote and says that all buildings, including this building, all buildings are built using bricks, right? But not all collection of bricks are building. Yeah? So if you just put a pile of bricks anywhere or stone, that would not be called as a building. And that explains your concern that you are saying that if you just do mediation on anything, it would not make sense. So the mediation would make sense when there is an overarching story, picture, and then you are doing to illustrate that there is something beyond direct relationship, okay? But most often what happens, people lost in actually analysis. They think that they have done sophisticated analysis and therefore their study is making contribution, while actually they're not able to articulate what the contribution is because they failed to provide that overall arching story. So that's the problem. And second thing is, theory is not hypothesis. Theory is actually the discussion that you present to support the hypothesis. So why? So Witten, the same paper, Witten says there are 4 components of hypothesis, theory. What, how, why, and when, where, and the boundaries. So 4 components, and the most important component is why. Why that relationship should exist. Yeah? Why that mediation that you're proposing should be there. And that part is generally most weak part in most of the paper when they get disrejected. So presenting that is called as glue, that the discussion that you present to support your hypothesis is a glue that actually bind the constructs, bind the relationship. And if that is not there, then everything else is meaningless. So this is my kind of suggestion that look at that paper, read it once, it will give you some insight about it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Can we have
May
some
I
advice
add
from...
something to this and move a bit in a more abstract manner? In my language, Greek, we have a saying, the good has a worst enemy, which is the better. I don't know if you have the same expression in Italian, but we say that in Greek. One of the first things I asked my PhD students to do towards the end of their first year or beginning of the second year is to take an issue of the Journal of Marketing of this year, a journal of the issue of Journal of Marketing 10 years back, 20 years back, 30 years back, and 40 years back. And I asked them to look at the papers in this issue. Papers that were published in the Journal of Marketing 30 years back or 40 years back would be desk rejected today by most of the journals presented, if not all, I think all, the journals presented today in this meeting. How come? Progress, demand and supply, we are marketers. Not necessarily for the mediation aspect that our friend said. For every aspect, things are getting increasingly difficult. I see the work I published in '97, it was my first paper, and I hope that nobody will read it. Honestly, I hope that nobody will read my early work, because it's so, I shouldn't use the word weak, but it's my work, so I can use it, I suppose, right? So weak compared to the way I have developed writing that I am not necessarily proud of it. I was proud at the time. It was a big breakthrough for me to have my first 3, 4, 5 papers, but it's not good enough for today. And clearly, I'm not as gifted and as well trained in writing as some other panelists here are. And I'm very honest about that. I do my best, and every time I write, I try to improve. And I will try to improve until the day I decide that I'm out of this game. I'm sorry, we are all in the same problem, or with the same pressures. And do you know something? People who publish in the 4 stars, like the ones that way, more often than me, are in more trouble because they have to lead the way. And they need to prove themselves all the time in that level. People think that they are clicks. No, they are not clicks. It's good training that takes loads of time, loads of effort, and if you don't work with people who have this training, it's very difficult to learn on your own. So my advice to anybody is try to find good supervisors for your PhDs who have proved themselves in that level or higher, and try to work all the time. If you cannot manage to work, read, go to conferences, talk, try to understand how these people think. And it's not just for the mediator or the moderator or the upside down theory or anything, about all, excuse my friends, dumb aspects of your work. We are all in the same difficult game. If you are in the first league, you just have more pressure. Thank you, and I'm sorry for the...
Thank you so much, Cleopatra. Yeah? Sure.
Formally, but in additional analysis later on, you
Thank you so much, Kostas. Can we have some advice from our online guest, Professor Fevzi, Antoni, and Shuang? Prof. Fevzi, you are muted. Can we have some advice from you?
Sure, I'll speak up.
Thank you, Antoni.
My colleagues
Fevzi, what is your advice regarding the questions of our audience referred to the mediation? Could you please provide some suggestion, please?
My suggestion is
Thank you so much, Professor Fevzi. It seems due to the connection we lost Shuang. And now, Professor Dali, do you want to add any advice to the audience, please?
Okay, not necessarily about the mediation stuff. One of the things we would like to discuss in this kind of meetings is a matter of topics or trends, or which are the things we would like to discuss on our journals. So I think we come from a period in which we have been so much influenced and biased by the COVID, not only at a personal or professional level, but also in terms of content, right? There have been plenty of special issues and papers about how much COVID affected markets, marketing, personal lives, and so on and so forth. I think it's enough, right? We do not have to go back to normality as a matter of fact. We have also to think about things that are not affected from COVID, right? And go back to more general and significant issues, right? I think these last 2-3 years biased our perspective toward the contingent, right? The things that happen that affect ordinary processes. We have been looking for things like this, and probably we missed to critically focus on ordinary things. Are ordinary things really ordinary, or they are changing, no matter for the COVID or other contingent issues, right? I think there are two things that are very interesting today for both the practitioners and the scholars. One is the way in which markets have been evolving in terms of the interaction between the market side and the social side of exchanges. We have seen a surge of papers and interest for the sharing economy, and for those aspects from the sharing economy that affect the market economy. And these two things have been more and more integrated to each other. You know that one of the cornerstones of marketing thought is that marketing has to do with markets, and markets are made of people exchanging money for stuff. But there is plenty of activities out there that are not market-based. There is people sharing for free, contributing to kind of crowd-sourcing processes. There are platforms that provide services for free, and all of us use these services, providing information that these platforms are going to sell on the advertising or information market exchange, right? So even business models changed a lot. So one of the things we should go back considering is the way in which market work, putting together economic exchanges and social exchanges. Social exchanges are not based on the exchange of money, right? There is a huge amount of substantial evidence, as well as marketing thought and even more general management theories that can be used in order to explain how things work in these conditions. This is a first general issue that I think deserves attention and critical thinking, right? Saying which pieces of our theories still work in this scenario and which have to be substituted for something new, more effective in explaining how things work. And more specifically, there is another element that we should consider, that is the role of platforms in the way in which markets work today. In given categories, we have seen a rise of the power of platforms, sometimes competing with traditional marketers. In industries like the accommodation, we have seen how traditional suppliers have been integrated, sometimes substituted or challenged by the rise of platforms. Platforms work in many different ways. Sometimes are competitive, sometimes are very tough. Sometimes as if public agencies have to counteract platforms as they limit competition. They keep and maintain oligopoly or monopoly positions. There is an interesting paper by Rob Kozinets in JM about how platforms work, and he and his co-author, I don't remember the name now, but Lateral Exchange Markets is the title of the paper. And they provide a taxonomy about how these platforms can be classified and categorized and then analyzed on an empirical basis. And I think platforms can be very powerful, even risky for competition and for the rights of consumers. But at the same time, there are platforms that counteract traditional platforms, trying to getting back power for consumers, for local suppliers. And we see kind of inter-type competition between different kinds of platforms. I'm sorry, but it sounds weird, but as a matter of fact, at least in Italy, we see the rise of small local platforms that are trying to counteract the power of Amazon, for instance, or delivery multinationals that are challenged by local platforms that provide delivery services on a more ethical, locally sensitive kind of basis, right? So I think that these couple of themes are emerging and they deserve attention. They don't have to do with COVID or other contingent factors, and I think that it could be interesting to look at it and provide submissions for these kind of areas. I don't know. Maybe you have different ideas, so we can exchange a couple of opinions about that. But
Thank you
that's my
so
five
much.
Thanks. Thank you.
On behalf of the team and the audience, we would like to thank our guests, online and also those that are presented here, for such an amazing and also valuable comment and suggestions. I'm sure we can, approach them during the break time. And also thanks Anthony and Professor Fevzi for attending. And I know it's quite early morning. I'm so sorry we keep you awake. Thank you so much, and hope we can meet and you can join us on the next event. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. There's mine. Please give a big round of applause to the wonderful speakers. If you have any question, I believe they are happy, to communicate and also answer your questions during the break time. Enjoy your break and also the rest of the conference.